Welcome back, focused learners. Let's jump right into today's explainer. We're keeping things strictly informative today, a real enfoque informativo, as we step into a somewhat darker, deeply forensic space. We're going to conduct a visual audit of the publicly verifiable records surrounding the 1993 tragedy of actor Brandon Lee on the set of The Crow. Now, using an exhaustive open-source intelligence, or OSINT, audit that was compiled in 2026, we'll be looking strictly at primary sources, press archives, and digital footprints. We want to see exactly where the official narrative aligns with, and honestly, where it wildly contradicts the public record. All right, let's dive right in.
So, to kick things off, I want to anchor this entire explainer in a pretty powerful philosophy straight from the source material. Memory does not need owners, it needs truth. You see, our goal today absolutely isn't to sensationalize anything. We're not here to point fingers or make personal accusations. Instead, think of us as data mappers. We're objectively looking at what the primary source data actually tells us, stripping away all the rumors, and relying entirely on documented facts to really understand the historical record.
To do this methodically, we're laying out our detectives board across 6 key areas. First, the official narrative. Then, the weapons contradiction, the 1993 settlement, the digital account network, the silencing campaign, and finally, the forensic truth. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The official narrative covering the 1993 baseline events.
Let's take a look at just how insanely fast this official story was solidified back in 1993. Filming kicks off on February 1st at Carolco Studios. Just 2 months later, on March 31st, the fatal accident occurs. Then, by April 27th, which is literally less than a month later, the district attorney announces there would be absolutely no criminal charges. And by October, a confidential, out-of-court settlement is finalized. The entire legal and public narrative was completely sealed up within a matter of just a few months. That is lightning fast.
And here's the bedrock of that official story. If you pull up standard sources like Wikipedia today, the narrative heavily emphasizes that only Brandon's mother, Linda Lee, sued for negligence. It states that the weapons master, a guy named James Moyer, was sent home early just to cut production costs, which supposedly left an unqualified assistant to check the firearms. It also mentions a few other set accidents, but it keeps those victims entirely anonymous, blaming it all on general crew fatigue. And ultimately, as we know, the DA declared the tragedy an act of negligence, not homicide.
Moving on to Section 2, the weapons contradiction, primary versus official sources.
Now, this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict we're dealing with. On one hand, the official narrative explicitly names James Moyer as the weapons master who was sent away. But if you look at the OSINT's audit, it points to a primary source, a television documentary straight from the ET vault. And at precisely 16 minutes and 57 seconds into that broadcast, they directly name a completely different man, Douglas Dunham, as being on set and suffering a fractured rib.
Notice the documented pattern of early set accidents here. I mean, the production was plagued by them, right? Electrical burns, vehicle crashes, roof falls. Officially, the victims of all these incidents are kept strictly anonymous. Yet that ET Vault broadcast specifically breaks that pattern to name Douglas Dunham. And in forensic data mapping, let me tell you, a break-in pattern like that, it's almost never just a coincidence.
All right, Section 3, the 1993 settlement, impunity and compensation.
This quote from the LA Times back in September 1993 is absolutely crucial. They wrote that blame was spread among too many people. So the reason no criminal charges were ever filed wasn't necessarily some grand declaration of absolute innocence. Rather, the audit characterizes this not as true justice, but as impunity achieved through the dilution of responsibility. It's like, when everyone is a little bit at fault, suddenly no single person is held criminally accountable for the whole shebang.
Which leads us to a pretty staggering number, $1.49 million. According to verifiable public records, this is the estimated current net worth of Lisa Till Hutton, who was Brandon Lee's fiancée at the time. Now, the audit notes a really unusual legal fact here. 1993 press from the Chicago Tribune actually confirms Hutton was compensated directly by CrawVision Inc. So why does this matter to us? Well, as an unmarried fiancée, she actually had zero automatic legal right to a settlement under U.S. law. Her inclusion had to be specifically negotiated. And to put it in perspective, public records show no known public professional income to justify her current estimated assets. It definitely makes you wonder, right?
Let's get into Section 4, the digital account network and verifiable links.
Look at how these public Instagram accounts interact with each other. It's like a giant puzzle. The audit traces this highly specific bidirectional connection. So you have the official verified account managed by Shannon Lee, and this official account publicly tags a fan account and also follows a private collector account that's hoarding these BBL film items. We're talking official production scripts and items with Brandon's initials being showcased, with claims that they were obtained in the mid-90s, which ironically is exactly when those non-disclosure agreements were being signed.
And seeing that visual web, well, it forces us to ask a really critical verifiable question. How exactly were Brandon Lee's personal belongings transferred outside the legal custody of the Lee family estate? Legally speaking, his mother, Linda Lee Cadwell, was the executor of his estate. Yet these highly personal artifacts just suddenly appeared in a digital collection outside the family, all connected through this tight web of verified tags and follows. It's a massive gap in the public record. Honestly, understanding these digital threads is exactly why open-source intelligence is so vital for modern media literacy.
Moving to Section 5, the silencing campaign, pushback against truth.
Okay, so the researcher uncovered this, and it's wild. Definitive, verifiable administrative links. Public Unicourt, White Pages, and official USA records explicitly bind Lisa Tell Hutton and Douglas Alton Dunham, remember him from the ET Vault broadcast earlier, to the exact same Hollywood Hills address. And it goes deeper. They're linked at that address alongside a real estate agent whose California license was actually surrendered in 2025 for mishandling over $100,000 in client funds. You guys, these aren't rumors. These are solid, objective connections binding the people from that 1993 set all the way to the present day.
And get this. When the researcher, Gemma Oreto, published these exact public links on TikTok, she received a platform restriction lasting until the year 2037. 2037! The audit rightly points out that a restriction of this extraordinary length is super unusual. It strongly signals a coordinated, organized pushback against her account, way beyond just standard automated moderation.
And it wasn't just TikTok either. A wildly aggressive, multi-platform digital silencing campaign was launched against her. Her research on Medium and Substack was de-indexed within hours. Literally hours. On Wikipedia, a single-purpose account was created specifically to target her, making 77 hostile edits in just 8 days. But here is the kicker and why the data matters. Quora Moderation actually officially reviewed and restored her content, legally validating that she relied purely on verifiable public records.
Finally, Section 6, the forensic truth and our credible researcher.
Now, the audit systematically validates Gemma Oreto's credentials, and they are rock solid. She's a verified IMDb Pro criminologist and OSINT researcher. She even holds an official certificate from Spain's Ministry of Justice confirming zero criminal record. On top of that, her work is highly decorated. She won the Premios Europa Multicultural Award in 2026, where, by the way, she actually had permission from the Lee Foundation to honor Brandon and Bruce Lee in her acceptance speech, and she's been nominated for International Writing Awards. The point is, this audit isn't some fringe conspiracy theory. It is led by a decorated, legally verified professional.
Which leaves us with the ultimate, unresolved contradiction that the official narrative absolutely refuses to answer. Based on the public records connecting the people on set to the exact same addresses today, we really have to ask, are James Moyer, the official weapons master, and Douglas Dunham, the man named on set with broken ribs, literally the exact same person operating under different registered names? Or do they just have different, totally undocumented roles in weapons handling that were never properly investigated? It's a huge question mark.
And that brings us to the end of our audit today. Remember, every single thing we've examined here comes strictly from verifiable public records, court dockets, press archives, and live digital networks. The data is out there, quietly challenging the story we were all sold back in 1993. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought. If the official narrative is the absolute, unquestionable truth, why is there such a massive, verifiable digital effort to silence anyone who simply reads the public record out loud? Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.